Hi, welcome everyone, Friar Tuck, and today what I'm going to be talking about is my story of how not only I became homeless, but what homelessness was like and the journey and the vulnerabilities that those of us that are getting off the streets that we actually have to face. Because a lot of people think that, hey, you get a job, you pay rent, you should be fine. But you don't realize what it's like once you go from being on the streets to getting into a place. But let me talk about that. That's what we're going to get into this video. If you have any comments or questions, make sure to leave them down in the comment section, and I respond to almost every single comment. But this story starts probably about 3 years ago, when the whole border crisis was going on. I ended up losing my business because of a lot of the stuff that was going on. We were getting shot at on the way to our appointments, and I had a 2-week window to be able to shut down my business. It wasn't fun, but I did what I had to do in order to be able to save what I could save, at least, get contracts paid out, sell my equipment, so on and so forth. And I thought I would take all that and spend a year building a digital marketing business through a video production company. Because, I did all that stuff for myself when I owned my janitorial business or my cleaning business. And so I thought, well, I could do it for other companies. It'd be a great way for me to be able to do it. I'm pretty good at it. But it takes a while to build traction, especially for something like that, especially with the way the economic climate has been under the Biden administration. It was making it really hard for anybody to be able to start a small business, and any small businesses that were still in play were struggling just to be able to, retain their customers, get new customers, and just, kind of just maintain. And so I understood that there was going to be a lot of obstacles, but until now, the small business climate really hasn't been there. So I decided after about a year of that to go on the road. I rode a bike for about 1,000 miles until I realized how much I didn't like it, then got on trail. And so you guys have watched me over the last couple of years. So last October was my 2-year anniversary. And so just a hair over 2 years is what it took me to go from being homeless to being housed. But it was a long journey because I came out here with a plan. I knew that it was going to take me at least 2 years to be able to make any reasonable amount of money on YouTube. And it's taken exactly 2 years to get to that point. And then not only that, I knew that it was probably going to take me some time to get off the streets once I started making money, because it's just, I wanted to make sure that I was financially sound by the time that came. Now, just by circumstances, because part of me coming here to Arizona was to get static, to get a roof over my head, and start moving my channel to the next level. But through a series of events and some special circumstances, when I showed up here, I already had a place to go. And a lot of that has to do with the networking that I've done with multiple subscribers just over the last couple of years, to where it created a situation to where I could actually get a roof over my head. Now, I will tell you that going from being homeless to being housed is a very scary thing for an average homeless person. It's scary because you went from not having a place to now you're going to actually have a place, and then you realize how quickly you could lose it, especially considering you just spent however long on the streets. It's a reality check of how easy it is to lose that. So therefore, that becomes added stress that gets added. And then a lot of the times when you're trying to get off the streets, you're finding some place that has inexpensive rent, or that has the right conditions for you to be able to get a place. Because, when you're homeless, a lot of places will discriminate against you. And usually those that will put a roof over your head, they have their own alternative or ulterior motives. For example, we've been here for a week, and not only has the landlord ripped off my road dog, but now that she's coming over here because she's upset because somebody turned her down for being a tenant, and so now she chooses to lash out on us, and now we have to deal with that. And then that makes us question whether or not the stability of our place, because the average person, they're going to try not to rock the boat because they understand how vulnerable they are. But what that does is it leaves them open for bullying, harassment, and intimidation by very aggressive landlords, because they understand that you're in a vulnerable situation and you're just going to keep your mouth shut and take it. Now, me, on the other hand, I do have a little bit of a legal background. because of some of the things that I've experienced and done in life, to where if somebody wants to do something like that to me, they're going to pay a heavy price. And again, if this lady keeps doing what she's doing, she's going to end up paying that price. Because the thing is, the second she chooses to retaliate against us for standing our ground, because that's pretty much how we're going to end up losing our place if we lose our place, is that we're going to stand our ground, and then she's going to be like, oh, well, I want you gone. Well, you know what? That's retaliation, and there are still laws against that. Especially considering we have the right to protect person and property. And you know, she's kind of like violating a lot of that stuff. So we're dealing with this on a daily basis, and this is what it's like when you go from being homeless to being housed. Now, it's going to take us a few months to be able to, you know, get our foundation under us, to be able to get to a point where we can get into a better situation. But it's a lot like my experience in San Francisco. You couldn't get a job without having a job. So you went and got a job at a call center. Yeah, you weren't going to make any money because it was all commission-based, but at least you could say you had a job. And then because you had a job, other employers would therefore say, hey, you've got a job, so therefore you're employable, so let's go ahead and hire you. And then what you do is you just slowly, upgrade yourself. And that's what I did. That's how I survived in San Francisco, because that was the climate for the employment market. And a lot of the same methodology gets applied to going from being homeless to being housed. Is that, you know, you kind of got to go with that low-hanging fruit, that call center, that place that you really don't want to be. And as long as you can tolerate it long enough to be able to get another place, then you'll be in a much better situation. But a lot of people, I think that those that go from being, you know, homeless to housed, I don't really think that they understand fully all of the different obstacles that they're going to face in this process. But I wanted to kind of help you guys understand what it's like to go from being homeless to being housed, and what it's like to just deal with a lot of the obstacles. A lot of people think that just because you get a job, then you can pay rent, that you're going to be fine. But a lot of those places, they want to be able to see longevity. If you don't have any track record, they're going to be less likely to want to rent to you, especially if you have gaps. Just like in employment, it's a lot of the same way when you're first trying to get a place. You know, a lot of people don't realize that because they've been housed their whole life. You know, they just go from one place to the next and they can prove where they've been. But when you go from being homeless to housed, you have to fill in that gap. And, you know, that's something that's really hard. And now you got to explain that. And then that becomes a point of discrimination. And because you're not a protected class, they can get away with it. Now, if the homeless were a protected class, then we could, you know, we could at least have some sort of recourse. But there isn't. It's become socially acceptable to beat up on the weak and the vulnerable, especially if they have no protections. Okay, so this is the reality of what it's like going from being homeless to being housed. And just because you get housed doesn't mean your struggle is over. It just means a new struggle begins. And so for those of you that want to follow my journey beyond homelessness, because, you know, this channel is focused strictly on homeless education, awareness, survival. And for those of you that are about to get caught up in the Great Dispossession, I'm hoping that I may have pre-positioned myself to be in a much better situation. But at the end of the day, you know, I know that there's going to be a large amount of society that's going to be affected by a lot of what's about to go on, because even in the Trump administration, they're talking about the possibility of austerity and taking the homeless and putting them in some sort of camps like what they're doing in Florida. And this is part of what the Trump plan is, and he's already starting to implement it, and he's already started to say things about it. But anyways, if you guys want to follow my journey beyond homelessness, come on over to Patreon, because that's where all that behind the scenes stuff is. You guys get to watch how we build a homestead and just kind of like what life is. And you can ask the more detailed questions. But, you know, here on YouTube, we're just going to cover the homeless issue, education, and survival. So anyways, guys, everything you need to know is down in the description. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.